And let's start with our man Booze, who's got the first question. It says, Pope Frankie Fihn, based on all the teachings you taught us, what would you suggest in setting up a simple landing page to sell our services? Should it be a form that we use to submit a ticket or reach out or a way to register and get the Google Docs with the info and pricing? Oral says, filling a dentist room with clients brings in $100K a year. Filling an advertising agencies with room and clients brings $1 million a year. One of my agency clients told me this figure today. I then thought to myself, my effort to help these entrepreneurs is the same for both, but my potential return is much greater for the agencies. Nick is up. Nick says, wondering if anyone has any experience using Apollo.io for prospecting clients. Interested in hearing feedback on it. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Excited to have you guys here building some really cool stuff. I see, asking some really intelligent questions. And I just see us like as a bigger, stronger community, excited for you guys, and hopefully, I hope my role in that is to help you guys find some bigger and better and cooler ways to re-engineer this model to work more for you and do less of the things everybody else says you have to do, which I believe is generally not the case. So I don't really have a big announcement today, other than I think you guys are awesome and the coolest, and buy my shit. Because it's cool. I think I'm going to get a t-shirt made with that just says buy my shit. Anyways, let's get into the good stuff. No need to tease you guys and keep it going. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Fihn proudly brings you our weekly Q&A. Ba-dum-bum-bum-ba-dum. The Daddy Gun Show is in session. Excited to have you guys back. And let's start with our man Booze, who's got the first question. It says, Pope Frankie Fihn, based on all the teachings you taught us, what would you suggest in setting up a simple landing page to sell our services? Should it be a form that we use to submit a ticket or reach out or a way to register and get the Google Docs with the info and pricing? I'll give you a deeper kind of understanding behind it, and then the pages that you create will be easier to create. But just a little funny story about that. About 5 years ago, I remember I applied to be on an agency podcast, and they said, send us your agency website. And most agency websites are like a home, like all these lists of services, about us, a contact page, maybe a blog, maybe some videos, maybe about the owners, things like that. In every service, having a discussion about what it's about. Our website at the time was one headline, 5-minute Loom video, and a button to buy the shit. And that was the whole website. There was no header, there was no contact, anything. It was like literally just a sentence, a Loom video, and buy that shit. And so I sent them the website, and I actually remember their answer was, that's not an agency website. And I believe it is. That's a conversation for another day. But anyway, I say this to you guys because it depends a lot where you are with an offer. So if you are in a situation where you have sold this service 100 times before and it has become monotonous to sell it, then in my mind, you just want to put all the details into a video and talk to as little people as humanly possible, except the ones who are ready to do business with you. Now, when it is different, and this probably summarizes at least 80% of you guys, because if you have like a newer offer and you don't necessarily have it all dialed in, then the opposite is true. I actually want to invite as many conversations about it as humanly possible. And so what I would do is some kind of open up the conversation, whether that be a form fill or a chat with me live or text me right now or click this WhatsApp button and start a conversation. Because when you have a newer offer, nothing will help you dial it in faster than feedback from the people you're actually trying to sell it to. So to me, if it's a newer sort of unproven offer, which describes probably, like I said, most of you guys, not all of you guys, but most of you guys, you want to actually invite that. Now, when you have a proven offer, like as some of you guys have as well, the opposite of that is true. Like you want to only talk to the people who are the most serious, most ready to buy it, the I'm ins or I got one question before I'm in kind of people, and that's when I put all the details. So to answer your question practically, I don't know, what we've done in the past is have a little video that summarizes what we think the offer is, and then a form to like, hey, let's have a conversation about it, or text me right now. And I'm inviting that. And usually, by the way, once somebody texts you and asks you a question about the offer or whatever, my very next thing is, can you just tell me a little bit about your situation? Because I want to know what problem they're trying to solve, what's happening in their reality that they're actually trying to fix. How do they see this thing? How do they describe it to themselves? And you know, what outcome are they ultimately trying to get towards? And the more you understand that, the faster your offers and shit are going to work in general. So to me, it really depends. Like I said, if it's newish offer, invite the conversation. So if like I go into a brand new niche and I know nothing about those motherfuckers, like invite as much conversation as humanly possible and use that feedback to tweak and dial it in. If I've sold it 100 times, like, you know, I've created a few of these Loom videos for private clients, and like they sold their shit 100 times. So to me, it's like, let's just put the details in a video and eliminate the need for all this prospecting and chasing and all that, and let's start spending more time actually building awesome fucking websites and doing great SEO and actually leading clients in the things you want to do, and less time trying to get them. And nothing is more energy efficient at that than digital technology. In other words, video. Because like for me, video me is pitching 24/7, 365 days a fucking year. Real me, like I woke up this morning, I did fuck all. I played a little Mario Kart with Heidi. She sat on my shoulder, which was really, really sweet. And we had some nice breakfast. But I was not ready to be in like kick-ass mode. But that whole time, video me was prospecting. So it depends on where you're at in the journey. Are you scaling an offer, or are you trying to dial it in? Scale it, cut the conversation down, just video and buy it. You know, newish offer, unproven, invite as much conversation as possible, and just let them talk and let them talk and let them talk and ask questions. So I hope that's helpful, my dude. Oral says, filling a dentist room with clients brings in $100K a year. Filling an advertising agencies with room in clients brings $1 million a year. One of my agency clients told me this figure today. I then thought to myself, my effort to help these entrepreneurs is the same for both, but my potential return is much greater for the agencies. So I wanted to rant on this because I think this is a thing that not enough people really think about, which is you only have so much time and energy. Like, at least for me, and I think a lot of people in our space fall into this. In the beginning, like, I was so focused to hitting income numbers that I was willing to kind of do fucking anything to hit those. You know, like, outside of like prostitution and dealing drugs, like anything that was legal, I should say, and like actually help people. But I didn't think through enough of like what Oral talks about in this case, that sometimes the same amount of effort to make somebody 100,000 could be used to make somebody else $1 million or 10 million or 100 million. And I found this out, like, you know, when I started dealing with like $100 million law firms, like if you just move the needle 1%, they make $1 million off of that. And often you did very, very little. You might change a sentence in a phone script or something like that. And what happens is almost always we think to solve like smaller problems for smaller people, often because that's the level we're at. If you got an agency doing 100K a month, you're going to think to solve problems for businesses doing 100K a month instead of solving problems for businesses doing 100 million a year, right? And beyond that, right? So I say that to you guys because we really want to think about investing our energy in a way to get maximum return. That's really what the more beach, less laptop is in a nutshell, is investing your energy intelligently for maximum return. Now, in the infinite possibilities, do you always know what's going to be the maximum return? No. But if you ask yourself intelligent questions like, where can I put a little thimble full of energy to get a whole output of monetary value and, you know, create something cool for people, create a win-win in that process, you're going to end up a lot further ahead. And then if you say to yourself, like, how do I do anything to get to 100K a month or whatever that number is for you? So anyways, I hope that's helpful to you guys, because like I don't think enough people think about like selling higher value people and selling higher value things of theirs, right? Sometimes you might like, you know, just change it one or two deals. I have a private client I'm working with on a deal right now. We're helping to sell their $250,000 consulting, and like how much you really got to do. Like, and this person like, you know, has a clout and an industry name. We sell one of those. One person says, all right, I'll take your $250,000 consulting. You know, we've already like generated enough to justify a $50,000 fee for the year with one person, right? And I'll tell you, it's not any harder to sell a Bentley than it is to sell a 1975 Toyota. You're just selling to a different person for a different reason. But a Bentley, like if you sold cars and somebody comes into the Bentley dealership, you're not really doing something all that different than if you own a used car lot and somebody says, how much for that 1972 Toyota? How many kilometers does it have? Right? Like like the nuances are going to be different, but the basic sales processes and all that are always going to be the same. So all things being equal, be the sell Bentleys as clients and help your clients sell their own Bentleys, because often their Bentleys are sitting in the garage, and you'll make yourselves a lot more money with far less effort because it's a small amount of energy and a big amount of output. So I hope that's helpful to you guys. Dapo says, if you had to start an agency again and have a goal to get to 10K in 3 months, what would be your strategy? 1, which service would you offer? 2, what would be your top 2 ways of getting clients? All right. So this is probably the question in the last 4 years that I have been asked more than any other question in existence. And, I'd say probably about 40% of the agencies in our space are like starting out. And the number one thing they want to know is, how do I get to 10K? And almost always the questions they ask are, what should my service be? And how would you go get the clients? And those are very useful questions, but I do not think they are the first 2 questions. I actually think they are questions 3 and 4 that need to be answered. And I'll give you kind of, for those of you guys who didn't watch, I set a challenge because I got asked this question so much. I set a 90-day challenge, and I said basically, like, I'll start a new agency in a new niche where I don't know anybody, I don't have any contacts, I don't know anything about them, and I will go from 0 to 10K a month or 20K a month. Was somewhere in that range was the goal, just to show people it was possible and could we do it in 90 days. We actually hit the goal of 15,600 a month in exactly 26 days. 27 days, 26 or 27, something like that. So to show you guys kind of what's possible, and I'll tell you guys how I did that, okay? So the first thing, I believe the first and most important question is not what you do and what your service and how you go get the clients, is who that you do it for. And I think people are so quick to think about their service, they miss this question. Who am I going to do it for? In other words, your niche. And a lot of times people delay this forever because they think that some niches have money and some niches don't. And the truth is, every niche has a spectrum of people who spend a lot of money to a little. It's like, in the car industry, because I just mentioned it, there's Bentley and Ferrari buyers, and there's there's Geo Metro buyers, right? So like, all things being equal, choose the Bentley buyers in your industry. And this doesn't matter whether you do yoga or e-commerce or coaching or fitness or dentists or doctors or lawyers. It doesn't make any fucking difference. There's Bentley buyers within, and there's broke people within, right? So you want to think about serving the top 10, 20% of whatever niche you go into, because your life's going to be a lot easier and you'll be able to help them more, and your stuff will just be stickier in general because they'll have more to work with. So the first question I think everybody should be answering is, who am I doing this for? And once you make a clear decision on this, and don't delay this forever, and you're not locked into it forever, you can change your fucking mind, but don't take 6-12 months deciding who you're going to do this shit for. Take 3 days max and fucking pick somebody and go help them. Whatever your best answer is in 3 days, that's who you need to go with. And if you have a better answer of who you most want to do this for tomorrow, then change that answer. But for now, pick the best fucking person and roll with it. Next thing is, you've decided on a who. This question is not about you. Businesses have to be market driven. So the question I want to know, who are these people? What do they want? What are they struggling with? What problems do they have? What challenges do they have? Okay? So I think as a function of that, your next action after you've decided who you're going to do it for is research the ever-living fucking hell out of these motherfuckers. And so I'll tell you what I came, so in the 90-day challenge, what I did is I chose water damage restoration. And it was a niche I knew nothing about 5 minutes before. So what I did is I joined a bunch of Facebook communities, and I joined a couple on LinkedIn, and I started reading their things and I learned basically there were 2 important things about them from those conversations. One is I asked the question, what kind of jobs do you most wish you had? And they said, category 3 flood jobs. And the reason for that is if a house is like really, really, really flooded, then there's going to be like a lot of work for them to do, ergo they're going to make more money on it. Now the second thing I learned is they actually don't want big, like really, really big jobs, and that kind of surprised me. But I found out the reason is because on a really big job, they're getting paid from insurance, and if it's a big amount of money, insurance company has a lot of reason to delay, to fuck them around, to try and lower the amount. So they often don't get paid on the really big jobs for like 6 months, a year, and they got to go to court, and it can be ugly and it can be messy. As where an $8,000 job in a residential house, insurance company, like it's not as significant amount to them to even dispute it, so they just kind of tend to issue the check, ergo they get paid sooner. And so in the time they spend chasing to get paid on one big job, they could have done 10 little ones. So once I found out they wanted category 3 residential flood jobs, and are like, what problems are they trying to solve? That's the second question to me. And like I said, the answer to that is learning everything you can about them and learning how they think and how they talk and all those kind of things. And what I found is the minute you can say, hey, will you, and so I should say, which leads into the third question you asked, which service? Well, I started looking, how are these people getting jobs already? And it was like basically two things, referrals and internet. So the service we created out of that had to be what was kind of working for them. So it was a combination of SEO and pay-per-click, nothing very magical, but that's where they get some of their business. Like somebody has an emergency, they go to Google, they look shit up. I didn't go in mind with the service. Now, I sold SEO for 10 years and have zero fucking desire to ever do it again. So in this case, we did it with a white label partner where somebody else was doing the fulfillment. And for those of you guys who are interested, by the way, we have a list of like pre-vetted white label partners. They're still humans. They're not perfect, but at the same time, like it'll save you a lot of trial and error of, just trying, vendors who don't have like a track record of being able to deliver on those kind of promises. So anyways, if you guys are interested in that, I can share that document with you. But anyways, that is the third thing, is then you decide on the service. And then to me, the fourth thing is, what did you ask again? What would be the top 2 ways of getting clients? This sounds so ridiculously stupid, but I just go where they are already and then enter myself into the conversation. So what I did in this particular case, and this is something I learned years ago, is I used to do a lot of speaking at conferences, especially before the COVID madness. So like I did a lot of lawyer conferences. And when you go talk at a lawyer conference and say there's, anywhere from like 200 to 1,000 people were typical for the size of audience and stuff I was going to, it's not unusual you walk off stage and you sign 5 clients, 10 clients, 15 clients, like right on the spot, like out of 1,000 people in the room, 10 of them will come to the back of the room and want to buy your shit. And for me, they would also show up as bookings. Like over the next week or so, somebody would be like, hey, we saw you at this conference. We're interested in seeing what you guys do. And I started to do this for a lot of years, and I noticed at the same time we were running Facebook ads to webinars, and they worked, but everything I was doing in person worked even better. And I attribute it to this one thing, is like conferences are not free, right? Like they're big rooms of buyers. And so I simply identified where the big rooms of buyers and figured out how to be valuable to the person organizing it so that you can be in the front of the room and talk to all the buyers simultaneously. I found nothing faster than that. And the other thing that I do is content. Like you guys are looking at it right now. This is content. If you do content consistently over a year, which most people do not have the discipline to do, you will see people continuously over and over reach out and want to buy your stuff. But I'll tell you why people don't, because the first 3 months are super disheartening and nobody gives a shit. Not even your mom. Nobody likes your shit. Nobody comments on your stuff. So anyways, I hope that's helpful, because like you said, the questions you asked are, what service do you offer and how do you go get the clients? And I think those are useful questions, but those are questions 3 and 4. The first question you should be answering, who are you doing it for? What's up with them? And then, hey, which service should I offer? And, like, how do I go get them? Because what happens is, this is so important. Like, I cannot rant on this enough. Businesses, if you want to be successful long term, have to be market driven. They cannot be just me only reasons. You can also have selfish reasons. So I'm not like telling you guys you can't have selfish reasons. If you just want to buy a Ferrari and fucking, live in the Playboy Mansion and snort cocaine all day long, you can have those selfish reasons. But you also have to have market reasons. So the classic example I give this, my hometown, Windsor, Ontario, Canada, big automotive city, just like Detroit, Michigan. It's right next to Detroit, Michigan. Close enough to hear the gunshots, but we don't get hit. But anyway, in my hometown, there's way too many fucking auto body shops. And I'm guessing the reason is someday some guy thinks, I hate working for the boss man. I'm going to go start my own shop. The problem is there's already fucking too many auto body shops to begin with. And so he struggles to sell his service forever and ever till the end of time because his offer is me too. Me too. It didn't really have a need. That business didn't need to fucking exist in the first place. Now compare that to a market-driven reason. So, funny little story. I was at my brother's house. He ordered some Chinese food. I don't know. There was a big drama. I don't know. Him and his wife were fighting about something. Chinese food guy knocks at the door. We get some egg rolls. 5 minutes later, the same egg roll guy knocks on the door. I feel like I'm having deja vu because I'm like, didn't you just hand us me egg rolls 5 minutes ago? And he points and he shows me, I backed into your brother's car, and your brother's car backed into my girlfriend's car. Now her dream car was to own a Volkswagen Beetle, so we bought a Volkswagen Beetle. Don't shame me, it's just the truth. The tailpipe from my brother's car went boop and speared right through the front of the engine. Now we went to 3 different auto body shops, is the reason I tell you this story, because they said, insurance says you got to go to 3 places and get 3 quotes. And all 3 places said the exact same thing. We do not work on Volkswagens. They're too complicated. Take it to a specialty shop on Drulard Road. Now, when we got there, this guy was backed up for a month. He said, I can't even work on it for a month. I do this all the time with insurance. Tell them you need a loaner car. I will fix your car. Give me a month. And he fixed it in a month. Now, here's the difference. Okay, those are both auto body shops. The first guy has only selfish reasons to be in business. I want to start a shop because I want to start a shop. Fuck that. I don't want to work for anyone else. And he struggles forever and ever and ever and ever after. The next guy says, I want to start an auto body shop. Where is there a gap in the market? Who needs help? And he realizes Volkswagen people are a gap in the market. I'm going to specialize my thing in this unmet market need. And he never struggles for business again. I'll tell you the biggest reason people struggle getting to bigger numbers, in my mind, is because they only have selfish reasons to be in business. Now, does the Volkswagen guy have selfish reasons to be in business? Of course! Of course, right? Of course. But he doesn't have only selfish reasons. He has actual market reasons. And so the way you discover those market reasons, you pick a group of people and you learn some shit about them. And for us, that meant, this is the difference. I'm going to sell you SEO. That's a Me Too offer with no market needs. Hey, I know you're really interested in these smaller residential category 3 flood jobs because you get paid on those faster. We can help you get them with SEO. Exact same deliverable, right? You're still doing an auto body shop, but the second promise has market-driven reasons. So that's a piece that I think a lot of people miss, is they're so ready to go gung-ho and start just bukkake the world with I do SEO that they miss choosing a group of people and actually uncovering something they're trying to do and figure out how you can make your thing accomplish what they want to do. So anyways, that's a rant, but if you guys are interested in following that case study, I put it all in a Google document. You just you can watch all those videos and laugh at me or whatever. Some of them are a little ridiculous, but I documented what we did as we did it, and I hope that's helpful to you guys who are trying to get there faster. Basil says, when creating content that will be shared to distribution partners and channels, is there a specific checklist or particular qualities minimally required when generating that content to make sure it's geared towards attracting and generating clients versus content generated with the intention of gaining vitality and popularity? I'm assuming, hopefully correct, that content for the intention of gaining clients looks different than content with the intention of becoming popular, even if it's on the same topic. So what does one need to keep in mind when intentionally crafting content for that purpose? All right. This is something I learned from Dan Kennedy, by the way. If you guys want to get smarter about the marketing business, just listen to everything Dan Kennedy said 30, 40 years ago in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It's all on YouTube, by the way. It's all free. So you don't even need to pay anybody a cent. Just go listen to Dan Kennedy. You'll become better at the game of business. Anyway, that's a little side rant. So one of the things that mean old Dan said is, one of the things that got confused when we started introducing social media, it made people believe that there were new metrics in the game of business. Right? Likes, comments, shares. If you believe the game of business is likes and comments and shares, I encourage you to go to the bank and to try and pay your mortgage in likes and comments and shares, and let me know how that goes. In other words, don't get caught up in believing that, like, as you pointed out, and this is not just for you, Basil, but for everybody listening to this, like, the point of content is not to go viral. We're not here to be like some internet sensation. In fact, some of my best performing content monetarily is the shit that, like, gets no comments, one like, and yet I'll have 3 people reach out and, like, you know, we'll do some kind of, you know, high-end kind of business together. And so I share that with you guys because I think people get the false idea that the internet has, like, made likes and comments and shares. And I'll tell you, as somebody who kind of works with right now with some different like content creators, a lot, like the vast majority of them are fucking broke. You can have 1 million followers and be fucking broke. So, you know, because they've gotten virality, but not, like, actually, like, move the game of business. So the type of content, by the way, that is most useful to people, that, like, actually makes sales, is when you share a process that helps somebody to solve a problem and overcome a challenge. And the way we best found to do that, and I go in more detail into this in the course I've been promoting in email, what I call my shoe store course. But it's basically like what I call old plan versus new plan. So you describe what somebody is doing now and the undesirable effects, and you describe a different process that you have found to get to where they're trying to go, but much easier, much faster, with a lot less misery along the way. And then what you do is simply share that process for free, and a lot of times they'll see, hey, that process makes sense to me, it is valid, but I don't want to do that. Can you just help me do that? So, for example, let's go backwards a second. So I find out that these people want Category 3 residential flood jobs because they get paid on those and they don't have to deal with all the insurance woes. Well, the way I know how to do that for real is to rank for keywords that talk about all the kind of shit you're trying to get, right? Emergency home flood repair, for example, right? Like, there's a keyword, right? If somebody types in emergency home flood repair, they probably have a Category 3 emergency in their fucking house. If you get in front of those people, I would not be surprised if they called you about Category 3 flood jobs. So one of the things that we did, by the way, and I did some content, for example, so I pulled up ChatGPT and I said, hey, we're trying to get Category 3 residential flood jobs. Can you suggest some keywords in the Google that people would be looking for already to find this kind of work? And ChatGPT went, as ChatGPT often does. And I said, see? Now, what do you think would happen if you created a bunch of content around all these different keywords that are the stuff you're trying to get? Well, I'm not betting you're going to become an overnight millionaire because you publish one blog post, but if you do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these, I'd be shocked if you didn't start getting some incoming phone calls, especially if you're putting out the best stuff on it. So I said, why don't we just pick one of these, emergency flood repair Denver, and let's have ChatGPT create us a skeleton of a piece of content. And let's have it suggest some images and some pictures and things that would enhance that. Now, what do you think would happen if we started continuously over time publishing stuff like this on the internet and getting you reviews about this? Like, who do you think would call you? And what happens is you're just demonstrating a process that shows them a problem they're trying to solve and an outcome they're trying to get. And what will happen, by the way, in every industry you guys do this in, people are always afraid to do this. They think, oh, they're going to steal my shit and then they won't need me. And the opposite is true. If you show 10 plumbers how to do SEO, 9 of them are going to say, I don't want to fucking do that. Can you just do that for me? That sounds like a lot of work. That makes sense to me, but that sounds like a lot of fucking work. And I just want to clean shitty toilets or whatever. Cole's ripping on my Canadianness. And I see Hetty's asking about the affiliate program. I'll come to that at the end, my friend, because I probably, like, the short answer, I just dropped the ball with that, to be real with you. So anyways, I hope that's helpful to you, because the point of content is not to go viral. And again, like some of the, when I show people, hey, you're trying to get Category 3 home flood repair kind of work so you can get paid quickly on it and actually cash flow in your business, and I show you how to do that as fast as I know how, a percentage of those people are just going to say, can you just fucking do that for me? And so I give away the process. Like, it's not a secret. Like, if they hire us, we're going to make content about the things they're trying to rank for. No shit. That if you do that long enough, you'll get some business on it. So always think about that. Your content is actually about solving problems and creating outcomes and giving away processes that what I would call a simpler, superior process, an SSP, a simpler, superior process. So if I was doing this for a roofer, to give you guys one more example, I'd say, hey, I know conventional wisdom says take all the roofing jobs you're supposed to get, and then you end up doing all these little floods where the amount of gas you spend on your truck and the insurance, you don't even make the money back driving out to somebody's house. And then they tell you to bang a sign on the lawn and go knock on the neighbor's doors and hang all these door knockers. And I'm not saying that don't work, but that's a lot of fucking work. Let me show you how we figured out how to get full roofing installs right off of the Facebook ads. The first thing we do is we target all the rich homeowners using these zip codes. Then the next thing we do is we show them an ad that looks kind of like this that says, hey, do you need a full roofing install? Fill out this quiz below to find out whether you qualify. And if they qualify, it spits that lead out to you and says someone is going to be in touch. Then your job is to call them and actually go follow through and give them a quote and do that in a timely fashion. If you do that, we found it's a pretty good way to get roofing installs. So there you go. There's an example of the content, okay? So I hope that helps you get some clarity about that for those of you guys who are creating content. I believe, by the way, the longer and more you create content in your industry, the better it's going to be for you. But most people can't do it because it has a compound effect, and therefore there's very little return in the beginning, and it's very disheartening. But also like, the hardest thing I think for a lot of people, just feeling like you're going to be judged by strangers on the internet. The trolls and the hate us, and hey, my hair looks stupid and I got a pimple today. Oh my God, how can I make a video? I got a pimple today. And if you just, if you're not worried about that shit, like, you can go a long, long way with this. Lachlan says, hey, Frankie Fihn, want to follow up on the 20K per month challenge you set out. I love seeing the ins and outs of your thought process. Did you end up completing it? Yes, we did. And I want to share the deeper level understanding of like what I was trying to do with that, so that you guys kind of understand how to recreate it yourself. So 10K for me, just talking numbers was kind of a magic number, and it's probably the question I get asked the most, as I've mentioned. And the reason is when I first actually had a real 10K per month and I felt kind of stable in it, I knew I could get back there even if I lost everything. And so I was it was the first time for me that it really represented you'll never have to have a shitty job again as long as you live. And that's the truth. That's been my reality now for almost 20 years. And I remember the last job I ever quit and how much I hated it. And it was a good job, right? Sometimes to me those are the worst. The golden handcuffs is you have a good salary. It's not that easy to replace if you quit. And if you fail, you're going to look really stupid as the guy who walked away from, you had the $120,000 a year job and you walked away to go start some internet business that didn't even work out. There was certainly that fear was forefront. And when we actually eclipsed 10K, I didn't become happier. I didn't become better. Nobody high fives you on the street. Same is true, by the way, when you get to 50 or 100K or 10 million, nobody high fives you on the street. You win. Your wins are in secret for the most part in this game. But anyway, when I got there, it was this life-changing thing. And so I've had a lot of people ask me, you or me starting over and get to 0 to 10K. I want to talk to you guys a little bit because I kind of mentioned earlier where I begin that process, figuring out who I'm going to do it for and then what their problems are. Literally, if you guys look at the challenge, the first 2 days I spent on that, deciding who I'm going to do it for and trying to figure out who the fuck are these crazy people and what are they trying to do. The faster you can get up to speed on both of those things, the faster it's just going to work for you. And ideally, if you choose an industry where you already know a lot about it, then you shortcut a lot of that. But anyway, so I read a quote by an investor guy named Jim Straw years ago, and he said, everybody has it backwards. So this is a guy who almost became a billionaire in the 1950s, and towards the end of his life, he shared some guides and stuff to do how. And he said, everybody starts the journey backwards, is they think about how do I sell my thing. And you actually want to start with who's buying it. Who buys it for real? And then don't even think about trying to sell your thing until you have a known buyer to talk to. And it really revolutionized everything, really, because even in our real estate business, we're matchmaking for buyers. We figure out buyers and what they're trying to do and so forth, and then go to them and find deals based on what they're buying. So I say that to you guys because I believe everybody gets this backwards in our industry when trying to do big numbers, is they start with the question of, how do I sell my thing? Which should my service be? Which should my deliverable be? And they give up, by the way, as a little aside, they give up on those things way too fucking soon. Like, hey, I sent 10 messages, 50 messages, 100 messages, nobody bought my shit, let's try a different industry where the grass is greener and it's going to be easier, and you just start over and start over and start over and start over. That's actually the number one thing that kills people at that, is they don't just commit to a group of people in a model long enough to actually make it work. But that's a little aside. So what I was trying to do is essentially recognize, where do the buyers already congregate? Like the people who like actually spend money. So one of the things that I did, for example, as a practical action of that, is I went and I partnered with some of the industry associations, and I noticed that there was a gap in the messaging about like, how do you get these specific types of jobs that they wanted, and I believed that AI was a tool that would make it a lot easier. And I knew if I showed them how to create content, most of them wouldn't want to do it. They would say, can I just hire you to do my SEO? So that was like the deeper level strategy going into it. And this is a very important point, by the way. Industry associations, by and large, are not free. You pay your way to get into those. How do I know you're serious about growing your water damage restoration industry, your personal injury law firm? Because you paid money to be there. How do I know that if you go to a conference that you're seriously invested in growing your business? Because you paid money to be there. How do I know that if you joined the top level mastermind in your industry that you're very serious about growing your business? Because you paid money to be there. So I have simply identified where buyers congregate already. And the way I figured this out is actually really, really simple. I went to a lot of conferences, and you just see the same motherfuckers over and over. You're like, hey, what are you doing here? I saw you last week in Miami. What are you doing in Denver? Oh, well, we're exhibiting here too. And then you see the same guy on the road 2 weeks later. Oh, like, wasn't expecting to see you. And then you start to realize you see the same people again and again and again. And I just started to categorize, like, they're obviously getting a return on their investment. They're not investing like $7,000, $8,000 to go to this conference and buy a booth and hotels and plane tickets just for the goodness of their health. They're selling their shit. And I noticed it was just a couple of things. They were buying expertise, coaches, consultants, masterminds, courses. They were buying software and tools. Like, I saw a lot of software and tool guys over and over and over. I saw other industry associations. I saw communities. I saw content creators, people that were making top podcasts and YouTube channels and shit like that. And I saw other providers. I saw SEO and pay-per-click and Facebook ads and the TikTok guy and so forth. And there's one more in there that I'm forgetting just off the top of my head. But point being, I noticed the buyers were already congregating. And so the more I recognized this, the more I started to go, instead of asking the question, how do I sell my thing? It was, how do I get in front of where they're all buying the thing? And I found the easiest way to do that, which is why I've been promoting a course lately on it, is they need content. Like, behind the scenes, it's a shit show trying to create content. They're like, hey man, our writer bailed 2 hours before we got to print this newsletter. Do we have something we can put in the newsletter in the next 2 hours? Right? Like, that shit happens. They're going, hey, we don't have a webinar scheduled for next Thursday. We have a webinar scheduled, but no guest. Or they're saying like, hey, we need somebody on the podcast like 2 Mondays from now. Who do we got? Right? And so when you show up and say, hey, I got this useful, valuable content idea I want to share with your people, they literally just say yes. And what happens is you simultaneously get in front of a lot of buyers at once. And so it's the thimble full of energy. Right? It doesn't take a lot. Most of the work in like messaging the top conference owner, the top podcast, is like 10 minutes of Googling to figure out who runs the damn thing. Right? Like, who puts on the Dental Conference of America? Who? About Us? Okay, who's this guy? And like figuring that out is like that's the hardest part of the whole thing. But messaging them to say, hey, I want to help you create more of what you're doing, and I don't even want to be paid for it because I know I'll get business on the back end. It's like, that's the easiest message in the world to sell. Easiest message in the world. It's like definition of irresistible offer 101. But what we're strategically doing that is getting in front of the buyers. Now, as far as like, do I want to grow this agency past it? No. And I've been working on book 2 kind of in secret. Just so you guys know, it's like pretty much done. I'm just waiting for I have some big wigs endorsing it. some like A-level players, and it is like literally sitting on their desk, and they said in the next few weeks I will get you a comment about the book and I will send it back to you, and that's just really cool to me. And other than that, like, we're pretty much go. There are like a few things I got to set up, like the Kindle version of it and stuff. I've written in paperback format, but other than that, it's like it's good to go. And the deeper idea is I want to show you guys more efficient models of a little bit of energy in, a lot of money out, because it really buys you freedom and autonomy in ways other people can't imagine. And I believe that there's better ways. So, like, for example, in the agency space, give you an idea of what I was thinking. So I had a deal I was putting together with a partner for different reasons. We decided not to go forward on it, but like, if I want to, I can create more of those deals. But like, for example, we were talking about the idea of, he's a really good operator and he likes to buy businesses that have everything in order except for marketing, and he kind of fixes up the business. And for him, he's got really, really good credit and a lot of leverage, so he can buy $1 million business with like $50,000 down and, you know, a small business loan for the rest. And if the business cash flows right away, like, and it's a good operational foundation, it just sprinkle a little bit of marketing and it works. Like, usually businesses that have depended on referrals for a long time, that just like do good work kind of thing, and everybody knows them, like, those businesses are the perfect ones to help, because like, sprinkle a little bit of marketing machine on it and it just amplifies like an already good business. And then what happens is he resells it later. So one of the things I was doing is I negotiated, said, I can find the business that fits the description of what you're looking to buy, and would you be open to paying me a little, you know, 5 or 10% finder's fee, which is pretty normal, by the way. I said, sure. So in a case of $1 million business, that would be like 50 to 100 grand up front. And then I said, hey, you know, if we're going to grow this marketing thing, I need some room for a team. So like maybe like $2,000-$3,000 a month. Let's earmark for me to grow this team. And what we had negotiated, by the way, is let's fix these businesses up together. We'll create a bigger pie, and you get 50% of the bigger pie, and I get 50% of the bigger pie. So the business is here at $1 million a year, and we agree that it'll sell for a 2-3x multiple. So like, let's call it middle, $2.5 million. If I can help increase the value of the business and everything it sells above and beyond that, let's go 50-50 on the extra, and I'll do all the work helping you market it and stuff like that. And if it you know, like, goes through, like, that's $50K up front. That's $2-3K a month. Let's call it $2,500. So like 30 grand a year there. Plus, as you increase the business, like say from 1 million to 2.5 million, it gets a 3x multiple. So like, you know, if it's worth 7 or 8 million at the end of that, and you increase it above $1 million, you get like a $3.5 million check when that's all said and done. And I say those numbers to you not like to impress you guys, but like, why the fuck would you want to take on 150 clients to essentially get $3.5 million when you can negotiate that with one? So what I hope to share with you guys with this is more efficient models where you're actually doing way, way less. Because at the end of the day, like I said, we chose not to pursue that deal, but like, again, I can go after more of those kind of deals. Like, I'm still running the same SEO with pay-per-click at the end of the day, right? Like, it ain't even fucking different. It's the only difference is I'm doing it for a $3.5 million share and some upfront cash, rather than like, you know, trying to negotiate it as a vendor, pay me $3,000 a month. And it's a very, I'll tell you, if I could just summarize the difference in mindset in one thing, when you're paid like a middle class person, you want to be paid a salary. And essentially the way I believe most people's retainer business models, and I had my own, like, because I'm not throwing any stones at anybody, but like, I basically like want to be paid a good salary like a middle class person. When you're wealthy, you want to own shit. Right? So like, I don't give a fuck if you pay me 2-3K a month. I can negotiate that anyway. But what I'm really after is I want to own a share of this thing. Anything we can do above and beyond this, I want a cut of that. I want some ownership in this. I want to actually own shares in the thing I create, because that's where the actual wealth comes from. And so the goal of book 2 is to show you guys how to engineer those deals. And I don't they're like a little bit more energy than negotiating, you know, $2,500 a month retainer. But like, would you not like take a couple extra steps to potentially add $3.5 million on the same fucking client? And how much harder are you going to work when, you know, there could be $3.5 million on the other side of that for you? So I plan to show you guys more of that through book 2. Like I said, I'm just waiting on some like really fancy people endorsements. And we got a bunch already, so I'm super stoked about some of the names who've already endorsed the book. So that's super cool. But that's, you know, that's the update of why I've not pursued this agency. Like for me to get 50 clients paying $2K a month for SEO versus just fixing and flipping one business, it doesn't make sense energy-wise to do 100 times the work because I don't own the thing, and so it takes way more effort. Now, it could be different if you're looking to own your own business as a sellable asset later, and I know percentage of you guys are doing that, so that may make a lot of sense. So don't take this as like financial advice where I'm preaching at anybody. Like, just use the models as they work for you. They're just fucking tools. So like, I just hope to show you guys better, more sophisticated tools for getting a bunch of money that you can like just enjoy your fucking life with and have a cool lifestyle. Because I believe that's what most people's goal really is. It's not to have a 2 Comma Club award, look at me on stage. It's like you just want to do cool shit, and money is a tool that can enable you to do that. And I believe there's more efficient models that'll help you guys get there faster. So I'm really excited to share that with you guys. I think for a lot of you guys, it'll blow your fucking mind up with what's possible in this game. Anyways, let's get on point here. let's get back to the questions. Dave says, anyone else noticing a decrease in your clients' calls, leads since the popularity of local service ads LSA has grown? Updated for clarity. I have a tree service client that I do SEO for. Last summer, I had him booked out for 4 to 6 weeks. This summer, even though he ranks higher for most keywords and has double the 3-pack coverage he had last year, he's barely getting 1 to 2 calls per month from his web presence. His SEO is far better this year than last year, but the calls are almost gone. I had never done LSA before, but he and I agreed we would try it, so I helped him get it set up. The first 24 hours after the ads went live, he got 8 leads. 3 days later, he was asking me to pause it so he could catch up, like 20 leads in 3 to 4 days. I always knew the LSAs were getting some of the clicks, but I never thought it was this extreme. Sure feels like Google is going full pay to play. Dave, I do not have a crystal ball with the future of Google either, but I suspect you are 100% right. And the reason I suspect is Google is a private corporation, and their job, by and large, is to increase investor share value, and the way they make the vast majority of their money is selling clicks on the internet to anybody and everybody over every keyword. And I've talked to a few people that are much, much smarter than me with Google Ads, and they have all kinds of differing opinions about what to do about it and all those things, but they generally share the opinion that Google is going full pay to play, as you described, and eventually going to AI algorithm where they want it to be, just give us your credit card, we'll pick which ads to show and where. And I've noticed a trend that's happening as well on top of what you were talking about. Lane Hauk, shout out to Lane from Signal Genesis and Quantum Agency for sharing that. But he had mentioned that on the LSA ads specifically, what Google is doing is normally, like, say you search for plumber and you get like 3 sponsored listings or 4 sponsored listings for a plumber, and you click it, it'll say, do you want to contact other plumbers as well? And they'll sell that same click 3-4 times. So not only are like they doing more pay to play, but they're starting to resell their leads 3-4 times. And what I would call sneaky little fuckers, because what they're trying to do is like, like as if that click makes them $20 and they sell it 4 times, now you just made $80 because you sold the same click to one person 4 times. So how this has translated, I'm not surprised about like the watering down you're seeing from Google, but I believe this feeds into a philosophy I have all along, is that what a tree company generally struggles with, or a tree removal, or any really local business in general, or even online ones, and like it's not really that different, is they struggle more with creating long-term value out of the people who already bought from them more than they struggle with front-end leads. Okay? So, and I wrote about this in the book extensively, but like I want to give you the short version of it, which is whenever a business wants to make more cash, 100 times or 99 times out of 100, they assume the fastest way to do that is to get more new people. And embedded in that assumption is they believe they're doing everything they could be doing now, and therefore there's nothing else they could do with what they have, with the resources they already have. So we need to go get resources we don't have. And I'm not saying you guys can't do that. You guys are fucking awesome at like pay-per-click and SEO and going to get leads. But I believe the biggest opportunity in your client's business is not to like get better at paid ads and LSA and all those things. It's to show them how to turn a tree cutting client into somebody who refers them, who recommends them, how to turn that in, or what other home services do they need that we could hook up. Like you may contact a general contractor who builds backyard patios and say, hey, do you think we could put together a special deal for our people? And then you can say, hey, like JC's General contracting is building backyard decks. If you need a backyard deck, I negotiated a special deal for you guys, and you may get a $500 kickback every time you sell a deck. And there's only like 1,000 opportunities like that. So I believe the real money that is to be made in that business is sale 2, sale 3, sale 4, actually like better serving the customers they already have. And that may mean partnering with businesses who do things they do not. And if you're willing to put together those deals for people, like you'll keep those clients forever. And you won't ride the highs and lows of Google so hard. I'll tell you what changed for me. This is not trying to dissuade you guys from doing it, but I had a friend back in the day. They were doing $1 million a month, so it was a $12 million a year business around there. And all they were doing is they figured out how to rank using software and tools in Las Vegas, and they ranked for all the limousine terms. So like not just like 1 or 2, they would have like 5 to 10 of the top 10 listings. And what happened is somebody would go to Las Vegas, look for a limo company, they'd enter their thing, and they would immediately have a system that would sell those leads. And they were fucking crushing it, because a lot of people in Las Vegas are looking for limos. But one day, Google did an update, and they went from like dominating search results to $1 million business went, or $1 million a month business went to 0 overnight. And they were selling leads, by the way, which is almost like 100% fucking profit, right? Minus the cost of actually doing the SEO. But like you sell a $100 lead, you're keeping most of that $100. So they had huge margins and huge business, and Google ultimately just went, boop, you're out of business. Thanks for playing. And for me, it sent headwaves because it was the first time Google was my magic bullet where I could anytime a client needed more business, I could do it through Google. And it was the first time I realized I don't control Google. Google can kick you out of the search rankings any day, all day. And so what happens is if you do this long enough, you'll start to see all these Google updates. And so I believe if you focus on helping your clients win on the back end and create systems and processes that are repeatable, so like the way you help one tree cutting company is the way you help 100 tree companies, you'll be in a category of 1, meaning you'll be the only one who does it, and you'll ultimately be more valuable than anything else. And your shit will work faster and easier because you'll start with resources they already have rather than trying to convince them to go get resources they don't have. In other words, if you got to get new people, you got to convince strangers. If you owned a restaurant, what do you think would be easier? Convincing some stranger off the street to come eat you, or to go to somebody who's in the restaurant right now and say, hey, we put together a special offer because we want you to come back tomorrow. Who do you think is going to, if you need cash right now as a restaurant owner, do you think it's going to be more likely come from people already eating at your restaurant, inviting them to come back again this week? Or do you think it's going to be from getting a stranger off the street? Now, both of those can work. But if you had to, make it work faster, which one of those do you think would work faster? In fact, you could pre-sell them. You could say, hey, we got a $50 lunch tomorrow. It's dinner for 2 for $50. But we want to give you a special. If you want to prepay, we'll give it to you $39.99 right now, $10 off, just because we appreciate you so much. You can get them to pay for it right then and there if you wanted to. So I share that with you guys because I think too many people go after hardest money because the assumption is everything in my business is fully optimized, and most people don't know what to do with their buying audiences in general. If you understand that, you basically have the keys to the castle forever. If you can just think of one more thing to sell to a buying audience, in your case, of tree cutters, you're never going to hunger for income opportunities because you'll be able to create them at will, literally at will. Just go hey, I talked to a deck company and they want to put together a deck deal and they love to just do something cool for your people, and they're willing to pay you $500 every time they sell a deck, right? You're going to put together a few of those deck deals. Anyways, Nick is up. Nick says, wondering if anyone has an experience using Apollo .io for prospecting clients. Interested in hearing feedback on Nick. So this is a little bit of a side rant. This is not really so much about Apollo as much as people, what people are trying to do with Apollo. The vast majority of people that get a tool like Apollo are trying to be able to message strangers and drum up some business and be able to kind of move the needle and do that at scale. And I believe most people do that in a way that is just doesn't work, right? And I think the biggest reason is twofold. One is one of my mentors always says effective before efficient. And effective means if you can't message 10 people and get it working with 10 people, you don't need to message 1 million people. right? Like you gotta get that system working on a much smaller scale before you scale. And I believe most people skip it. And so what happens is they scale broken shit. They scale messaging that doesn't work. They scale offers that don't work. And I'll tell you, I think the biggest reason why, if I could just summarize it, and I wrote about this yesterday, the difference is when most people fail with outreach and content and paid ads, almost always, they're looking for a magic one-off, in other words, a single message, a single ad, a single something that is going to just finally fucking work the way they want it to. And I believe that the people who are consistently successful over time almost always have a campaign. And a campaign, instead of being a single message, is a sequence of messages that are designed to work together and build upon themselves. And so what that means is, and I wrote about this, I was talking to somebody else who has a really successful outreach system. Somebody said, like, what's your message? In other words, they asked, what is your one-off thing that you're saying or doing? And the one-off thing they're saying and doing is probably not all that different than a lot of other SEO companies are doing. They're saying, we'd like to do a free audit for you. See if we can help. Right? That ain't new messaging, just in case you guys know. Somebody else has said that. But what is different is the fact that it's in a cohesive campaign. So they send something like 30 messages a year to one client. So that means they touch them like, every 10, 12 days or something like that. Like that person gets a new message. They do monthly webinars. So that person is often being invited to a webinar. Hey, I know you're probably not ready to buy our shit. Come check out our training on how we can get you, HVAC installs or whatever. They are also calling those people. They have a salesperson who periodically calls that person just to touch base. This is probably an unsung one. They comment on their shit. Right? They friend those people on social media, like their post, say, hey, good to see you. Like they're actually actively building real relationships. They are putting those people into a retargeting or a custom audience, on Facebook, and they're running paid ads to the same people they're sending messages to. Okay, that's a campaign. It's a very sophisticated one, especially when you start going across media. But if you want to be successful with this shit long term, I don't care whether you do content, I don't care whether you do one-to-one cold outreach, I don't care whether you run paid ads, your shit will work better, in general, if it is a campaign instead of one-off. And I'll tell you where everybody fucking loses on this, is so many people are looking for a magic one-off, and they even ask the question, like, what is your offer that's getting people to go on the phone, instead of, how does the campaign work together? Okay, so you like their shit, then you message them, then you send after you send the message to the webinar, you send them like a voicemail that says, hey, you should check out the webinar we just sent you. So if you want to be successful with the shit long term, like, think of sequences of messages. Don't do this onesie twosie. Think about like how to and I'll tell you, if you think about this in a way where it's a value add process rather than a value take. So this person I mentioned, like they were doing webinars, it's totally different outreach message to say, hey, you want to buy my shit? No? Okay. Hey, do you want to buy my shit over here? And that's all most people do, is they just jump from person to person doing one-offs, throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping somebody fucking sticks. It's a very different thing as saying, hey, you didn't respond to our message for an audit. Maybe you'd be interested in just checking out a webinar on how we're getting blah, blah, blah thing that you want in your market space. And then have somebody call them, say, hey, we really want to invite you to this webinar. Like, I think it'll, like, just based on you guys and your numbers, I think that'd be a really good fit. Check it out if you got a chance. And then posting on social media. Cole says, try saying please. But what happens is, if you approach things like as a campaign, you're actually looking for a real relationship with people. If you approach things as one-off, you're like at a guy at a bar trying to get laid like 10 minutes before last call. Just like scanning the room for like, who's going to bang me? Do you want to bang? Do you want to bang? You? No, for you. Right? And that's how the messaging comes across to most people. It's desperate. It's kind of flaky. They know they won't hear from you again. Right? If I say no to you at 1:50 in the morning and that's it, that's very different than, if next morning you say, hey, like, I really meant that. I really want to take you on a date. I know we were drunk last night. I know we were just talking. But, like, I really do want to take you on a date. Would you come here with me? Right? Like, you're probably far more likely to succeed on that second message than the first one. So, and the other thing that nobody really talks about in our space, everything is getting fucking noisier. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I drive down the highway, there's more billboards than I ever seen in my goddamn life. There are more social apps to pay attention to. There are more fucking groups. There are more notifications on the phone. There are more fucking Netflix shit. There's more fucking just that. There's more. There's Hulu. There's other shit. There's YouTube and there's TikTok. And then there's like kids and life and jobs. Like there's a lot of shit competing for people's attention. And if you respond to that by thinking there's some single magic message that's going to get people, you're doing yourself a disservice versus if you think, how can I stay in front of this person long term and build upon it and actually add something to their lives, whether they buy my shit or not. You're going to find they're going to sell, or you're going to sell more shit. And the best thing to give away, as I mentioned the whole time, is give away a process that solves a problem or creates an outcome for them, knowing full well that the vast majority of them will not want to do it and will happily pay you to go and do it for them. So I say that to you guys because I want to help you guys build more campaigns and less like one-off shit. Because everybody's fucking failing in our industry because they're all looking like a guy looking for the magic pickup line instead of like, hey, what sequence actually moves the needle? And then what? And then what? And then what? And then what is a better question than magic messaging. Anyways, that is a little bit of a rant, but I wanted to just remember that, or have you guys remember that. Plus, because it just works better when it's in sequence. And some of the funniest shit, by the way, I bought a long time ago Magnetic Marketing from Dan Kennedy, and he had in their sequences, and there was a letter written by a restaurant owner. It was an Italian restaurant owner, and the offer was come to dinner for two for a romantic evening. And, it was come to Giuseppe's and eat some pasta. And he said, did you know 50% of marriages end in divorce? And the number one reason given is that the romance was gone. That's why we put together a romantic night for you, so that you come to our restaurant at Giuseppe's and we'll have candlelight and there'll be music and blah, 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 and put that spark back in your relationship before, that flame burns out. Well, they sent 5 messages in a row, and by the 5th message, they started to get really humorous with it, and the 5th message said, can this marriage be saved? Right? Obviously, playful, tongue-in-cheek. They're not, predicting a divorce. But they're just doing that in a fun way. And if you guys think about campaigns, and think about campaigning for stuff, 8, 9, 10, 20, as many as it takes, sequences to get people, you're going to beat everybody. This is the funny thing, okay? People, because the original question was about Apollo and a tool. Most people will try and send 10,000 one-off messages badly, and if you just sent 10 messages manually to one fucking prospect, you'd probably be farther ahead than if you just sent 10,000 one-offs badly. It's the equivalent of you walk around at the bar and go, hey, do you want to bang? Do you want to bang? Do you want to get married? Do you want to get married? How about you? Do you want to get married? At the end of the day, you're going to get rejected if you would just message one girl and said, hey, I really like you. Can I text you? And then said, hey, what was it? What kind of girl were you like growing up? And hey, I'd like to take you on a date. And then you went on a couple of dates. You probably get way further than trying to chase some magic thing that doesn't exist. And so I say that to you guys because I believe one of the biggest things, this is a function out of just if you could go back to the early 1900s, when all it took messaging wise is to say, we got potatoes, and you're the only potato guy. You probably sell out of potatoes. But in this day and age, where I literally, since we started this shit, have had 3 pop-ups from wrong numbers. Never mind people that I actually do want to contact me. There's been 3 wrong numbers just since we started talking, right? And multiply that by how many distractions. So if you're looking to cut through the noise in somebody's inbox with one message, you're at a serious handicap to somebody who's thinking 7, 12, 20, 30, 50, 100 messages in a row. And what this has led to for me personally is we just do endless follow-up. I'm just going to do follow. I always see follow-up as 3 things. You're going to buy it, you're going to die, or you're going to unsubscribe and or maybe even tell us to fuck off. But for the most part, that's it. 3 endings. Once you say I'm interested in some shit, you're either going to buy it, you're going to die, or you're going to unsubscribe. And the way to do that ethically is always be thinking about adding to people's lives with your follow-up. Always be thinking about your campaigns building and actually helping people. And you'll be amazed. They work. They work way better than just one-off, hey, quick question, you want to buy my shit? I got 50 to 100 to 11 million booked appointments. Buy my shit, motherfucker. Instead of hey, we're inviting you to this webinar because before you said you were really interested in getting full roof installs, and this is the best process we found to do that. And all you got to do is like do good work, ask people for a Google review, and be willing to build some content out on that. If that sounds like you, like, come join this thing, because we're gonna lay it all out for you for free, right? That's a totally different kind of message. Anyways, so. And this would be, by the way, this would be, since I use the cheesy dating analogy, this would be the equivalent of, you're far more likely to progress a relationship with 4 dates than one magic sentence, right? Like, stuff accumulates and builds upon itself. And I don't think enough people understand that. And internet marketers, by the way, like, I used to be like, only believed in direct response and thought branding stuff was stupid. And I've realized after all these years that I was wrong, and they work best together. Like, when you use your direct response stuff to create a brand, that's when you really, really fucking win. And so what that means is so, using the example, like, if you go on 4 dates and you guys get lucky together and you're both happy about that, internet marketers think, oh, it's because I wore my wolf shirt. I got laid because I wore my wolf shirt. It's like, no. Because you guys went on 4 dates. Like, it's everything that happened before that, right? Like, if you think about the ultimate offer, marriage is about everything that comes before the offer, not the offer itself, right? Like, if you slept with her sister and you're an alcoholic and you beat her 17 times, like, will you marry me is going to have way less of an effect than if, like, hey, you guys have had 2.5 beautiful years and you want to have children together, and it's like, hey, it just seems like the next logical step, and I have this amazing idea for what we could do together. Will you marry me? It's going to work far better, right? So not enough people think that, like how do I build relationships at scale? That's what we're really doing, by the way. If you think about it as building relationships at scale, not about magic messaging that's going to get all the people to hurl credit cards at you, you'll have far bigger success. Because then everything you would do to build a relationship in real life is on the table in your messaging, and everything you wouldn't do is off the table, right? Would you send an automated message that, like, is copy and paste to a chick you were really interested in? I don't know, right? Maybe you would, and therefore, like, that sequence can work. But in general, like, a lot of the things people do to try and generate business are things that would not work in a real relationship context, and that's why they don't work online either. It just seems like that because you see a lot of it. Like, I guarantee you the vast majority of the booked appointment bros are finding it harder and harder and harder and harder and harder to sell that shit. And harder and harder and harder to get people to stick. So anyways, that's enough of a rant on that. That's all I got. This old Canadian daddy has it me for today. Appreciate you guys. Much love for you guys. Happy Monday. May the force be with you. Hey guys, if you like this video, you'll probably also like our free Facebook group, Beyond Agency Profits, Agency Lifestyle Design. You can get free copies of the book inside here. I look ridiculous. We're doing weekly Q&As, giving answers to all your questions. Some of the best, smartest, brightest people. We've got lots of industry leaders doing 7, 8 figures and beyond. It's a literal who's who of the brightest agency owners that I know, as well as lots of tips on scaling and stuff, books that work. So if you're not already part of it, you're going to want to be part of it. So make sure to click the link. I put it in the description of the video as well as in the pinned top comment below. So just scroll down and you can join, and it's totally free.